welcome to our panel today on AI and technology, making it work for you. I'm very pleased to have some excellent guests here to help me out with discussing this subject. And first, I'd like to introduce you to my assistant today, Pepper. And Pepper is going to introduce our panelists to the audience. Please, would you introduce the panelists?
I'm Pepper, a humanoid robot designed to assist with various tasks such as customer service, information delivery, and interactive experiences. And my favorite, Arthur Ingles, CEO of Moove, Chris Marich, co-founder of MySky. Together, our panelists bring a diverse range of expertise. Let's dive into the discussion.
Since we are here to discuss AI, what do you think the most exciting thing is going to be with bringing humanoid robots into aviation?
The most exciting aspect is enhancing passenger experience through personalized interactions and efficient service delivery.
Well, that sounds very interesting, Pepper, and I'm sure that everyone would like to hear a little bit more. You might notice I've even got my notes on paper still. We're not saying this is the end of paper, but we are definitely interested in how we integrate technology into our workplaces and make the best of what the opportunities are ahead of us in our current industry and for the future, our lives and working lives. If I might ask you all to consider how AI technology is shaping the future of aviation in terms of operational efficiency, safety and customer experience. And Kimberley, could you perhaps elaborate on the ways that in which AI solutions like the Aviation Ecosystem are the future of redesigning marketing strategies for the aviation industry?
Hi, James, and thank you, Pepper, for introducing me. Thank you to my fellow panelists. I have a AI software, the Aviation Ecosystem. I've been a part of aviation for a while, and I truly believe that AI is here to support us in developing the way that we communicate within the industry. I believe that AI is here to help us make us more efficient in terms of getting our message across, because essentially we are a whole and we need to communicate as a whole that is transitioning towards one goal, whether that's sustainability or whatever it is. And the tool is really there to help support that. It's helped to generate prompts, generate media or communications so that we can communicate as one industry on one single message towards a goal that we are aiming to achieve.
What are the important topics that need to be addressed and in what channels?
Right. Sustainability is a big topic, so one that is bigger than aviation right now. But as an aviation ecosystem, we do have specific goals that we are looking to meet, and that is essentially what we're trying to do. We're trying to utilize different kinds of media using the tool to enable us to communicate our message and what we are doing as an industry to move us forward, and what we are doing as a whole. So communicate that message across different platforms of social media to enable us to show that message of what we are doing as an industry to drive that development forward.
Chris, can you maybe help us out? How are technologies such as yours, MySky, transforming cost management and operational efficiency in aviation?
Sure. We have a bit of a different hat, right? We come from we work only with numbers most of the time, right? We're looking at how can we use technology to actually empower the users, right? The pilots, the accountants in the office, the back office work, and how can we bring those tools to automate? Automation is really one of the parts, right? Our industry is operated in a way that is quite manual, right? It's getting more and more into technology, but I think we're lagging a little bit behind. The assets we're managing are extremely advanced, but they're managed in a way that is still not that advanced, to stay politically correct. And that's really our play here, right? Is how can we use that technology to bring solutions, mostly around automation, because there's a lot of things that are very time consuming, that are repetitive tasks, and why should we invest human capital there instead of using that human capital for things that matter, right? I think we'll dive a little bit later also into this, but how I really feel that this technology is more of some, I'm again emphasizing on empowering, using that technology and being able to use the human capital where it makes sense, right? Not replacing that human capital, but using it in a better way. That's what we're doing.
Thanks very much, Chris. Arthur, can you also explain to us how does Moove help business aviation operators to reach new markets and enable access?
Thanks, James. Thanks, UAS, for being here. Basically, we are on the booking workflow side. Moove is a SaaS booking engine for big corporation to manage their shuttle flights or any operators wishing to have a more digital booking process. What we see is that the commercial aviation is very forward-thinking. They have a very strong distribution system. Business aviation rely on brokers and a lot of human input, and we believe that a lot of that task of booking an aircraft can be streamlined through digital tools. And basically, we are trying to build a booking system directly between the traveler and the flight coordinators or the operators themselves, and to have a very straight way of showing what's the business aviation value by highlighting with a multimodal benchmarking tool. I think there's still a lot to do, and of course AI is a part of that.
It sounds like you've all got your eye on changing something. I think back to earlier this morning at the keynote speech, and Dr. Picard invited us all to sort of embrace the challenges and be disruptive. That in mind, I'm also interested in the human factor, which we just started on a little bit there. Business aviation enables face-to-face relationships to happen. As a specialist in organizational psychology, how can we consider the integration of AI into aviation and the effect it's going to have on people and our workplaces and how those people are going to work together in the future?
My platform is about communications, it's about marketing, and I truly believe in the face-to-face contact. But I also think that we need to empower each other to communicate using different platforms, and that's essentially what it's going to do. It's going to help us reach people through social media, through other media, so that when we're communicating a message, it's not just the face-to-face you have with me, but it's also the understanding you have with me because of the different platforms that you know me from or that you know the message from. It's enabling us as an industry to understand each other through multiple ways of media and not just the one channel that we have. So it's expanding that so that we can have a bigger, broader impact.
Sometimes people in organizations are afraid of communicating outside of their public relations or their marketing stuff. How do you see the opportunities to enable people to get involved and be communicating what they do at their work?
I don't think that we're in a time where we cannot communicate, to be honest. I think that because we have such big global messages like sustainability, it's something that we need to communicate on and something that we need to empower, because the alternative to that is miscommunication by things outside the industry. It's up to us to really drive the message of what we're doing, is how I see it, to lead the charge and to be bold enough to show what we're doing and the things that we are driving towards and communicate that as one industry, as one message. Is going to be really empowering rather than kind of let it overwhelm and take you over. It's about how we control what's going out, how we control the message, and we act as one industry towards one goal that we're driving forward.
Chris, what role does human expertise play? You touched on it a little bit earlier, and how we can integrate with new technologies such as yours.
I think the human expertise is essential in the complex industry we're evolving in, for its complexity, but also for the importance of the touch points that people require or want to have. For example, a charter booking, I'm not sure people are ready to spend tens of thousands of euros and put their lives into the life of basically of the pilots, right? Without speaking with someone. How can we use technology to automate all that process to make it happen is one thing, but having someone that is also accountable for, or that is here to create that level of trust, is something that will stay, in my opinion, for a long time, and that should stay, right? When you're doing such a quality of service, such a bespoke thing, such as aviation, right? Wanting to replace the human element, in my opinion, would be a mistake, and I think it has already proven to be, in some cases, a mistake in the past. I think the right balance between this is really important. And then for the users, the back office, right? For our users of the platform, what we want to bring them is make their life better and easier. Why would you spend 4 hours checking invoices or copy pasting something from one screen to the other when you can just throw everything in an engine that does that for you? And you can do something else, right? Even have a coffee instead. It's even better than doing this. That's really what we're trying to bring here is making everyone's experience more better, basically.
I have a little catchphrase of my own. If you're cutting and pasting, you're doing it wrong. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. But again, we've seen that massively, right? That data lives in different in different silos in our industry, and that's also what we're trying to bring. Typically, the operational data and the financial data are kind of siloed and don't necessarily communicate, right? And I think where we are, but also the technological partners of the industry, right? Some of them are also here. We're working also together, right, to work around those APIs, those integration to make the data flow. Whereas initially, when we started 8 years ago, everyone was really not sharing their data and putting walls around that data, and it doesn't benefit anyone, right? And I think that's also what all the technology providers of our industry are helping, right? There's the AI element, obviously, the engine, but the fuel is the data as well, and that's, I think, as important as the engine, obviously.
How do we create good digital workflows then?
Well, for sure, first step is to showcase the value of business aviation. That's what we are trying to do with Antoine, my co-founder. Basically, with just two addresses, provide that information on why taking a private aircraft is relevant to you. That multimodal tool we have created make that available to anyone searching an operator or through an airport, a private flight solution compared to flying commercial or taking your car with all the hassles of what implies that. And secondly is, well, like any good broker is doing, creating the right aircraft for the right flight, and that's very complex. And I think that's where AI can make sense. Recommendation model, we are working a lot on that, basically trying to match one aircraft from one operator to that specific client needs. Because, well, every flight is different, every operator are different, and basically, if you want to go to Saint-Tropez, if you need a small aircraft, for instance, that have short field performance, but if it's very hot, maybe it will not make it. Well, digital innovation and AI can make that available to anyone, and I think that's one big step for business aviation is to being able to be more open to any executive and professional flying around and not just a happy few. And I think that's where a larger distribution could make sense. We work with many operators. I can mention Flyv, a small startup in Germany, that try to connect the small part of Europe. And I think, well, that technology can happen and break, but we need to call someone to have an aircraft.
Do you think people outside of business aviation might be a little bit surprised if they looked under the cover as they come in, and perhaps considering new people in the industry, our next generation, are they surprised in the way things are done sometimes? Is that an experience you've had?
Yeah, I think so, because it's so complex to understand what's behind business aviation. Being more transparent would bring a lot. I think there was a McKinsey study saying that 90% of the people that can pay for a private flight with their team traveling didn't even know that it exists. We can do middle of France to middle of Swiss in one day. And I think what's missing with this industry need to be more transparent and go for a larger market.
One thing also that I think is very specific to our industry is the fragmentation, right, at any level. That makes it special and that makes it harder, right? Speaking about what you just said as well, right, is very hard for people to enter it because there's a lot of data that is super fragmented, a lot of players that it's super fragmented, right? The average size of an operator is around 2 aircraft, I think. So it's also something that I think is making it more complicated, and also where that data can help, because when he comes and he cannot deal with 4 airliners, right? He basically has to deal with 400 because there's so many different players. I think that's also part of what makes it more complex and why there is need of that technology that can bring a bit of consolidation.
I'd like you all to have a little think about how our organizations might change in the future and how companies manage their growth. How can AI technology act as a supportive co-pilot, particularly improving team dynamics, communication, and change processes? Have you got some thoughts on that, perhaps, Kimberley?
So I think for me, it's a bridge, almost. It's a bridge because our industry is so fragmented, both in the terms of the age gap, the technology gap. So that there's a lot of fragmented parts within the industry, apart from the silos and things that Chris mentioned. And for me, it's about how we bridge that gap using technology and AI, both to inform the next generation about how we're moving forward, to help us understand how to innovate in order to execute and build what we need to build, but also in terms of helping bring in the knowledge that we already have in the industry and making it more relevant, making it more efficient, and how we can put that into tools to help us create the efficiencies around what we already know to help companies grow into those parts.
Anything else to add on that part?
Well, I think the core value of this industry is to fly safe, and having any tools, productivity tools or digital assistant that can help you focus on that bit is super important. And that's where I guess we all play our role, helping people focusing on that. And also service, basically. I don't think flight coordinator should spend hours trying to gather all data and make people on board at specific hours, sending thousands of emails. I'm not sure that's her main mission. Main mission is to make sure the full trip and the service on board and outside is focused on the executive productivity at the end. I guess any tool that helps people focusing on service and safety is super important for any operator out there.
It seems like maybe it's about consistent application of the technology to enable people to be successful at doing some of the work that needs to be done that might seem a little bit drudgery or dreary work at times, which enables them to get that work done quickly and efficiently and then move into other areas where they're enabling success with their human factors, if you like.
I'm going to say two things to that. One is that we do need to send emails, but now we can make them more personalized. We can personalize stuff to a point which the AI is helping us to understand our customer, helping us to be more efficient and communicate into the customer, and building a relationship that's based on data so that we are enabled to communicate with via the emails or whatever it is that we're doing in a way that makes it really relevant to them at the time. And that efficiency that it gives us to enable us to build those relationships based on those things, I think, is what's going to create the time efficiency that we need.
If I can jump on this as well, just to what I really see, what we can do, right, is transforming a business from being reactive to being proactive, right? It's so complex to operate those aircraft. It requires so much things to go right, to actually go right, that there's so many parameters that most of the times when we start a discussion with a customer, right, we see that the operation is mostly reactive, right, running after the latest problem because of the amount, right? So by creating more time, we allow people to be more proactive, and by being more proactive, you can be better at what you do, right? So you can take time to increase the result of what you do. So that's I think important as well.
Aviation can be a little bit guilty of abdicating certain responsibilities onto the pilot by saying, well, we gave you all the information, which isn't necessarily helpful if you can't process it in a meaningful way to create those insights that you need to get the job done. I'd like to move a little bit on to the future and competitive advantage of technology adoption. On the one hand, we can enable the whole community to be successful, but on the other hand, there are opportunities for early adopters. I like this phrase because people are concerned about the way their jobs are going to change. And AI is not going to replace you, but perhaps someone who can use AI will. Can you perhaps elaborate on that, Arthur, first, and tell me a little bit about how you see the future and the opportunity for adoption in our industry?
Well, I think it's a case that our industry is highly competitive. Being an operator is highly difficult financial-wise. Any competitors that is using tech to enable, for instance, a more efficient workflow, saving people time on every side, customers and the operation, well, we'll take advantage of that and gain market shares. I guess at the end is whether you want to be competitive or not, and I'm sure all operator wants to be that way. And so at the end, AI will make a big shift between cooperator flying with that kind of tools and focusing on safety and service and the others. I'm not sure everyone will accept that, but for sure it will be a big game changer. And even those that don't see it as a big advantage as of today will see maybe other benefits like reaching a larger audience, a larger local market, because I see we are empowering a lot of operators dealing with their direct local market of executives and small and medium businesses that is out there and able to retrieve more margin from that direct sales, and just a widget on our website can make it.
Chris, do our C-suite have to change their mental models and how they're considering these technologies, or are they well equipped to handle it?
Well, you're touching on something important, which is the willingness to change. I think we're in a much better position than we were 5 years ago. I think people are embracing technology now. My personal experience, when we started 8 years ago with MySky, the resistance to change was very high, but I think now it's coming more and more in our industries. At the C-suite level, as you say, like being open to change is the most important thing, right? Because without the people, we cannot implement those changes as well. We spoke about the technology, about the data, but the people are also one of the key pillars of this transition. If your people are not on board, you're not going anywhere, right? I think that's really important, and that's the role also of the C-suite, right? To bring the organization on the same path, right? And making sure that people are not scared or reluctant to change is really what is important, that message goes across an organization to allow a smooth transition in those directions. I think that's essential.
It seems like technologies could really help certain companies to really 10x their advantage and their capacity for managing stuff. And that creates a certain draw towards them that they might then be competing so well against their competitors.
Yeah, just wanted to add, if we look at it a bit more on a macro level, because now we're discussing within an organization, right? But for the industry as a whole, I think if we make it easier and more efficient, it also allows our industry to grow. Because today the entry barriers for an owner or for someone that wants to hop on a charter are quite high, as you were mentioning it, right? Not a lot of people are actually making the jump because it's too scary, too complicated, too lacking transparency, right? If we can address that, we can also see how our industry as a whole can grow by lowering the entry barriers, in my opinion.
And that's going to be quite important for advanced air mobility as well, isn't it? And the opportunity that they seem to be looking at is to go digitally native right from the beginning, the sort of Uberization of access. Have you got some comments on that, perhaps, Kimberley? What's your view on how we communicate with new markets and make these open up these new markets to access?
I think we need to open up the new markets to access, and I think it's important that we do, because when we do, we bring another avenue for growth, for innovation, and that's what the industry needs. Because when we open up those other avenues, we're really bringing in new talent, we're bringing in new expertise, we're bringing in new ideas. And all those things are kind of helping us move forward in terms of us understanding where we grow next as an industry. And growth is what's the most important thing for us to do. As we bring in those new talents or those new avenues or those new perspectives, we're enabling growth throughout the industry that has a ripple effect that makes us more sustainable, makes us more capable to grow into what it is that the future demands of us, which really is the point. Is to grow into what the future demands of us in order for us to be relevant.
Christopher, they say teamwork makes the dream work, and I've suggested that there's a new I in team. It's called AI. From the perspective of aviation management, what are the best practices for implementing technology-driven change within teams, and how do you onboard customers in that way?
It comes back a little bit to what I said before, right? The best practices is being willing to do so, embarking on that. Is the most important, and then it's about being really what we see with our customers, right? Is how are we rethinking their process? We are not just selling a product or a subscription, but I feel like always doing a bit of consultancy work as well. How can we change the way you do things with this tool? But how basically explaining how to use that tool as well, right? I think that's the most important is bringing the tools, but also explaining how to use them, and the most important, I think, is understanding how they use the tool as well, right? Collecting the feedback of our customer is really a key element of making the tool better, because they're going to be using it every day. On our side, design the thing, but if it doesn't fit the use that people want to do, so everyone has to do a bit of the way, right?
It seems like there's going to be quite a lot of work for our sales teams to be those change agents and to manage that as they introduce these technologies. Arthur, your solution helps to identify and compare transport solutions and their value propositions. How valuable is the reframing of data when we consider the next generation of business aircraft users?
Well, I think it's key because it will be highly intertwined for VTOL operators out there. It will only be on short range, travel. Basically, your main competition will be car or train. So, having and of course, you will have a highly more advanced need for booking system because you will buy just a seat. So the pace will be much higher than chartering an aircraft to New York. Of course, the booking system will need to be very reliable and to benchmark with the competition, which will be like a Uber in a Tesla, strengthen the need for a more digital booking workflow. And having that multimodal benchmark, I think, help also people on the short term understanding the value of a small PC-12 flight to Saint-Tropez or whatever destination for their professional trip. So I guess that's where we can start, and we see a lot of benefits as of today with more than 60 flights weekly on Moove.
We're coming close to the end now, so I'm just going to give you each one last sentence to kind of consider how we can create an adoptive and progressive culture to bring AI into our organizations and bring this new teammate that's represented here by Pepper into our teams and so that our organizations can thrive. What are your recommendations?
So for me, I think that what we need to understand is that AI is a deep learning tool that's going to help us generate insights and efficiencies for our organizations. As we do that, we bring in different perspectives, we bring in innovations, we bring in ability for us to innovate and also for us to become who we are, so to become the expert in the tool. And I think that's what's most important, is that when we get involved from the onset, we're enabling the tool to understand our industry, we're enabling the insights, we are putting forward our opinion, and we want to do that so that we are in the forefront of that building. For me, it's to do that.
Thanks, Kimberley. Chris, your thoughts in maybe a shorter sentence.
Don't be scared.
Don't be scared.
I mean, it will help you today and even more tomorrow.
I'd like to close. My line would be, nobody's coming, it's up to us. And whilst there might be some concerns about AI adoption in our industry, I also see this as one of the greatest opportunities in my lifetime to make a difference. And I kind of think about it as for the next 50 years. Let's make a difference. Let's make our industry great. And thank you very much to my panelists. And thank you to Pepper as well.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.